and Special Call Committee the whole meeting to order. It is 3:33 p.m. Cody, are we good in the back? I should have asked that first. Okay. All right. So, Madam President, Councilor Abbott, have you had the chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting, January 10th? And also, we forgot to approve the minutes from the December meeting as well.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from both meetings.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes. Now we move on to consideration of the consent agenda. Do either one of you have any items you'd like to place on the consent agenda? Councilor Abbott?
I would like to place items 6 and 7 on consent.
And that's on page 2.
Chairwoman Smith, we just had one slight correction to item number 7.
Okay.
Instead of the 3 years that you see, it'll only just be for one fiscal year for FY22. So the amount would just be $22,750 on item number 7.
Why is it only for 1 year?
We have to negotiate the contract going forward after this fiscal year.
Okay. Madam President?
I concur with that, so I move we accept those items as consent items.
Okay, well, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the consent items pass. If your item was on consent, then you can go have a good afternoon. Now I will call the first item is item number 4, a resolution by the Council of the City of Birmingham that the mayor be and hereby is authorized to execute for and as the act of said city an agreement with Empowerment Incorporated, in parentheses, Empowerment. Empowerment shall plan, implement, and host the Steel City Jazz Festival at Lynn Park, Birmingham, Alabama on June 17 through 18, 2022. The Jazz Festival is expected to generate revenue from out-of-town visitors and tourists as we promote the city with some positive publicity. The city will provide incentives and in-kind services to Empowerment in an amount not to exceed $150,000 for hosting the Jazz Festival in Birmingham. This is pursuant to Amendment Number 772 for hosting the Jazz Festival held in Birmingham.
Move the item.
Second.
Okay, Chief Mitchell.
Like Mr. Corialte Hauser to come and speak to this item.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you guys hear
Good
me?
afternoon.
Can you hear me? Okay. Corialte Hauser, I serve as Deputy Director for the Department of Department of Innovation and Economic Opportunity. So today you have before you a funding request for the Steel City Jazz Festival, which will be held June 17th through the 18th of 2022. It's a family fun filled occasion sponsored by Empowerment Inc., and it's a nonprofit. The event will bring jazz enthusiasts from all across the Southeast and potentially have up to a $2 million economic impact. Just some history on some of the past ones. The last one that we had here in Birmingham was 2017. It had about a $6.2 million impact with about 33,000 attendants and about 1,000 jobs throughout those particular days. He also does one in Orlando, and then this year he'll be doing one in Miami in 2022 as well. Obviously, events like this deepen our cultural significance, community pride as we sort of build our inclusive and resilient economy. It brings people into the city to attract population growth and also business recruitment as well. There's a couple of things we mentioned about entertainment events. They create jobs, it's revenue producing, it aids in developing infrastructure, and it allows Birmingham to compete on a more global scale when it comes to entertainment, which is one of the fastest growing sectors, especially here in Birmingham. Just the last point here, Jefferson County's leisure and hospitality annual GDP is projected to be $1.8 billion in 2025, which is about 4% difference from just the general sectors of 2.6% growth for the county. So leisure and hospitality by 2025, it's supposed to grow at least 4%, which is about 1.3% over all sectors. So very important that we sort of see these investments as they start coming up, and hopefully by 2025, when we get this boom in leisure and hospitality, we've already set our stake in the ground here in Birmingham. So that's the item before you today, and I am more than happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, Counselor Abbott?
Yeah, I had a few. How much what is the estimate for the in-kind services for this event?
Madam Chair, we're still working on those numbers between Birmingham Police Department, okay, there we go. The Police Department, Fire Department, and Public Works, we're still working those numbers out. We have a few of them back, but we're still having to try and meet with the promoter and make sure that we have all our bases covered. So right now, the only thing that we're committing to is the in-kind cash contribution of $150,000.
Okay, this says the city will provide incentives and in-kind services to empowerment in an amount not to exceed $150,000. So are you telling me that in-kind services should not have been written on here? Because we're going to give them $150,000 cash?
Yeah, that probably should not have been written on there because this agreement that's before the council is just for the cash contribution. As we discussed in the past, the in-kind services are under the emphasis of the mayor's office if we want to waive those fees or not. So I think the in-kind, I think it's supposed to be in-kind. Attorney Wright, what would you?
Blair Trailer Wright, Office of the City Attorney. That is correct. However, what we were trying to put before the council was the full scope of what could be given, the 150 and whatever in-kind services that the mayor's office seek to contribute.
Okay, but it won't exceed $150,000 because that's what this says.
Yes, we're hoping that it will not exceed $150,000, yes.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell just said we're going to write them a check for $150,000. That doesn't leave any money for in-kind services.
I don't want to contradict Chief Mitchell. I believe the way it's written, the city will give up to $150,000, which may include in-kind services, yes.
Okay, and these professional fees, is this from the Office of Innovation and?
It's coming from the $3 lodging tax that we had a line item set aside for sports and entertainment recruiting.
Well, can we get an accounting for how much money is in that account?
Yes, ma'am, I sent it last week.
Okay, well,
I'll forward it to you. I'll
Okay.
find it.
yeah, I'm sure I just missed it. If it was sent to all of us, I'm sure I got it and didn't see it. That happens sometimes.
So for November 2021, it was quite a bit actually.
It was, right.
510,000. And then for October 2021, 51,000.
And the collections are in arrears, so that November number is the October collections.
Okay,
So in all, from July to November, it was 1.4 million.
yeah. And my concern, even though I missed the email and I'll go back and look at it, is we keep on committing money from that pot to support a lot of different events, but it seems that, we need to make sure that the money is actually there. It's like our new parking deal where we let people count on-street public parking as part of their parking. Well, if everybody is looking at the same money, will we have enough money for all these events, or will we overcommit because the pot says, athletics and entertainment, or whatever the title is.
So to answer, Madam Chair, I think we're comfortable with that because we actually allocated that dollar amount within that budget because we budgeted $2.1 million for the fiscal year for the collection. As Ms. Smitherman already noted, we're almost at 60% of collection 4 months into the fiscal year.
So every time we commit some of this funding source, do we,
Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
take it out so that we are not looking at the same money repeatedly?
That is correct.
So can I have the request of the updated budget maybe in like a couple weeks after USFL and the Jazz Festival? So
Yeah, it seems like if we got a quarterly report, and I know naming it professional fees was probably very professional, but it doesn't really tell us what we're looking at. Because every department has professional fees as a line item, so could this be could it have a name that tells what it actually is?
Yeah, we can change the name and create that GL account. It's just that's just the way New World system is pretty much done. So this actual GL account is professional service, but we have the line item that says in the budget sports and event recruitment.
Maybe we could just put it in parentheses afterwards or something.
We can definitely do that.
Because, the council just gets hit with such voluminous amounts of information that sometimes, it just scrambles your brain to try to remember even which meeting you were in when you read something or heard something. So I don't know, maybe nobody else has that problem, but I do. It's called information overload, I think. But anyway, so yeah, if we can just designate it somehow, because I thought since it said professional fees, it was coming out of the departmental budget, which didn't make a lot of sense. But thank you. I think that answers my questions.
Okay, Madam President?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for presenting this. I know that this was a very popular entertainment resource for our citizens at one point, and of course, we have challenges with pandemic and other things, so glad to see this come back. I do have the question, you did say that this will be presented in Orlando and Miami this year as well, so we're part of several cities that this will be.
Yep, so Miami, absolutely. Is Orlando this year? Yeah.
Okay.
Montgomery and
Okay.
Miami is this year, so it's part of a broader strategy of
Perfect.
jazz enthusiasts.
Okay, and I guess for Attorney Wright and for Chief, I know that often when we have these type packages that come up, there's always this question of the in-kind or the wording that's in the agenda item. Is there any way that we could just look at how we establish the wording in these? Because I think each of these type of events come with some type of in-kind that typically centers around fire, police, safety, that type thing. Is this something that we have to put in this writing because it's 772 or?
I was about to say, come to the mic.
Okay.
Generally, what I tend to do is just put the whole information in front of you so that you do not, we would give in-kind services and then you not know about them. So we'll address tweaking that language so that it's clear. What
Okay.
we're giving in dollar amount and what we're giving in-kind or remove the in-kind service.
Okay.
Since you know that in-kind services come along with the act.
Correct. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Clark? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
No.
No?
Well, it's a green light, but I don't feel amplified.
Well, gee, mine's red.
It's red.
Oh, should it be?
You got a better light than I do.
Hello? Oh, there it is. Okay. So I had a couple of questions. I'm really happy to see this event come back as well. I feel like we have a bigger jazz void since we lost the Smooth Jazz, Magic City Smooth Jazz free concerts in the park too. And I have friends from Atlanta who would come every year for this festival when it happened. I was just wondering, is it the same group that's presenting, that is presented in the past? And if so, do you or they have some information on the economic impact of those past events? Because my friends all stayed in the hotel. They didn't
Yeah.
stay at my house.
Yeah, I can definitely provide that. So for the last one that we held in 2017, there's about a $6.2 million economic impact. There's about 33,000 attendees and about 1,000 jobs created around those 2 days of the actual event. So we're expecting about the same now. Obviously, the numbers will differentiate because of COVID, but definitely expecting at least a $2 million impact for this particular event too.
Okay, excellent. So my other questions had to do with whether we know, well, first of all, kind of what the total budget is for an event like this, because I have no idea. I'm just curious what it costs to put something on like this. And then I can just kind of get a sense of how much of that we're, are we the title sponsor?
Yeah.
Are we kind of co-branding with this level of investment?
This is a small drop in the bucket for an event like this. The last event in 2017, I think the promoter contribution was like $2.5 million.
Wow.
So they still go
Is
out
that for the whole tour or just for this one location?
for one location. But it's several days though, like several days that, set up, rental of services and fee, so all of that is sort of included in that.
Okay.
So it could be, and again, this is 2007, so
Okay.
before we even had COVID, so food, things like that they have to put on, so that number may be adjusted now.
Okay.
And they're still trying to sort of figure out what that budget's going to look like to still be impactful, because we
Okay.
want to make sure that it's a good look for the city and not just kind of haphazardly put together.
Okay, so yeah, that gives me certainly a perspective. Any word, are they able to announce headliners at this point?
I don't think they have secured the headliners enough to be able to promote them, but the group is moving with some speed to be able to get that out very soon, because we know that's going to really attract the ticket sales. So I do know that they're trying to go ahead and get that out very soon so we can get the ticket sales that we need.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Abbott?
I thought of a couple more questions. And by the way, Mr. Mitchell, I was accidentally left off of that email you sent out, and so throw away that distribution list and make a new one.
Budget to his head, not his heart.
Yeah, things happen.
My bad.
So, since the item we're approving is not to exceed $150,000, will that mean that after the police, fire, and public works departments determine what the projected cost will be, and if the mayor decides to give free services, because I know he tells a lot of groups that we don't give away free services anymore. So, will this come back to us for the in-kind services?
No, ma'am.
So whose budget will it come out of if it doesn't come back to us for approval?
It comes out of the respective budgets of that department.
Really?
Yes, each department is budgeted overtime. So we would just take care of those costs in the overtime budget.
Okay, so when their overtime pay runs out, there's no more free lunch?
We can say that.
Okay, well, I didn't realize that it was coming out of the poor department's budgets, but I guess they've got it budgeted in there. Okay, well, I'm good.
All right, Madam President?
Those were all my questions.
Okay. All right, I think there's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The item passes. Next item is item number 5, a resolution by the Council of the City of Birmingham that the mayor be and hereby is authorized to execute for and as the act of said city an agreement with the Southwest Athletic Conference, SWAC. SWAC will host a conference football game, SWAC game, at the Legion Field Stadium for a term of 3 years with an option to renew for an additional 2-year term subject to an appropriation by the City Council in each corresponding fiscal year budget. The SWAC game is expected to generate revenue from out-of-town visitors and tourists, as well as provide positive publicity for the city. The city will provide incentives and in-kind services for swag in an amount not to exceed $300,000 each year that the swag game is played at Legion Field Stadium. This is pursuant to Amendment Number 72 each year that the swag game is played at Legion Field. The financial commitment should be as follows. Year 1, $200,000, year 2, $300,000, and year 3, $300,000, and a 2-year option to renew with $300,000 each year.
Move the item.
Okay, it says Kelvin Datcher and Cornell Wesley.
Good afternoon, Council. Kelvin Datcher, Mayor's Office. I'm going to turn it over to Cornell Wesley, our Director of Innovation and Economic Opportunity. But I did want to take a moment to also to introduce Dr. Charles McClellan, the Commissioner of the SWAC Conference. How long have you been there now, Doc? 3 years. And so in 3 years, he has doubled down on the commitment for the SWAC headquarters to stay here in Birmingham, including buying a new building that is now their corporate headquarters in Birmingham. The basketball tournament is in Birmingham, and for the first time ever, the baseball tournament this spring will be at Regents Field here in downtown Birmingham, so that's very exciting. Dr. McClellan is one of the most respected athletic leaders in the country. He was the athletic director at his alma mater, Prairie View University, A&M University, and then at Texas Southern before becoming the commissioner. He was on the NCAA Leadership and Management Council, and now he sits on the Division I Men's Basketball Committee. So he is not just a local treasure, he is someone who represents the conference and our city very, very well. He also has brought in Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman to increase that footprint. So we're incredibly excited to strengthen our partnership with the SWAC, and so you'll hear from him in a moment, but Director Wesley.
Good afternoon, Councilwomen. Again, my name is Cornell Wesley, serve as the Director for the Office of Innovation and Economic Opportunity. Black college football is currently one of the hottest tickets in all of sports, attracting unprecedented national attention among the largest crowds in the history of these great institutions. The result has been direct economic impact and tremendous media coverage, as evidenced by burgeoning TV and media contracts that have been coming out of these institutions. Today's proposal includes 2 of the largest magnets among all of our historically black colleges and universities, plus one of our own current in-state partners. We are proposing, as mentioned, 1 game per year for the next 5 years, with all games to be played at the Old Gray Lady at Legion Field. The first 3 years will feature Jackson State University and the National Football Championship Series Coach of the Year, Deion Sanders. In 2022, Birmingham would host Jackson State versus the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. In 2023 and in year 2024 would feature Jackson State versus Southern University and a matchup known as the Boom Box Classic in honor of the 2 marching bands, Jackson State being the Sonic Boom of the South, along with Southern's Human Jukebox. Southern's fans, you'll find, are affectionately known as the Jaguar Nation. They have earned a reputation as one of the best traveling institutions amongst all HBCUs, boasting this past year alone an average attendance of well over 55,000, consistently selling out, and as even further evidenced by the national championship game played just this past December in Atlanta, which sold out so much so that they even had to open up an additional 1,000 seats to accommodate it. In 2025 and in 26, Birmingham, the following years, will host Southern University versus Alabama State, who, of course, is an annual participant in the Magic City Classic, the largest annual HBCU game in America. We are expecting conservatively over 16 million economic impact, with well over 200 plus room nights, with approximately 2.6 million yielding in lodging tax, 459,000 just to be exact. In lodging, we are expecting 459,000 collected is estimated. And again, these are conservative numbers. We are eager, we are excited, we are elated that they chose Birmingham as a host city for this. We feel thoroughly that the economic impact justifies the investment. And as mentioned, we have with us the SWAC commissioner who can speak to any particular details around the function of the conference. But I stand before you answering any questions you have as relates to this agreement. Also, as mentioned, Kelvin Datcher is here, along with our great chief, who can answer any of the financial questions you may have.
Okay, Madam President, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very excited to see this opportunity. As you have already said, Mr. Wesley, HBCU athletics are definitely on the forefront of all types of entertainment that we're seeing here in the United States, and we've seen the insurgence of national TV that's following these games, and so there is a following. I guess I just wanted to ask the commissioner, so, well, first of all, what you're asking us for is more of a 5-year agreement?
That's correct. It's a 3-year with a 2-year option, but we're requesting that you reserve the entire amount for the 5-year because we feel extremely confident that with the success we've seen, as evidenced by the Magic City Classic, that and with our relationship with the SWAC, that they would remain.
Mm-hmm. And I am excited. I know that HBCU music and the fan experience when it comes to halftime and the bands, that's often, sometimes there are more people watching halftime than the game itself. And so that definitely is a draw. So what I wanted to ask about the football schedule. So you mentioned the teams. Have these teams already been scheduled? This is on their calendar for these particular games? And you would be able to, if we approve this agreement, then you'd be able to switch those games to Birmingham.
Great question. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to present before you. Yet again, it is always indeed my pleasure. So when we brought in Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman University, we kind of expanded our footprint. And we're now one of the premier leagues. So from a television standpoint, from a fan base standpoint, as previously mentioned, we shattered the attendance records. This year we've led FCS attendance 45 of the last 46 years. Jackson State itself had a $33 million economic impact in the city of Jackson just for football. When you add up our 12 membership and the footprint, it's well over $100 million just for football alone. But unfortunately, we only have so many games that we can play within a schedule. And there are key matchups and key institutions that will continue to play, but those games are not mandated by the SWAC. So when we start looking at what could we bring to Birmingham and make it a really big event, we start looking at some of the teams that are not on schedule, but still are scheduled to play. Jackson State, Southern University. There is a possibility, that Florida A&M could come. There's a possibility that Grambling could come. So we have all of these games that we have on schedule that are scheduled, but we also have additional games that we are scheduling that are not a part of conference play. Okay. So I don't want to confuse the subject. So because we've added the 2 institutions, we have more games now that we can actually schedule because we have an 8-game conference schedule to leave 3 to 4 games depending on the year for them to go outside of conference. These are games that will continue to be conference games, but not necessarily count in our conference standings. But what we committed to was bringing high-quality matchups. You already know what the economic impact is from Magic City Classic. What we're looking at is bringing a second game to the city of Birmingham that has equal or even more economic impact. Sorry for the long answer.
No, that's good, because I just wanted to be clear of what we're committing to and the quality. I'm going to say all the SWAC teams are good, but just when we start talking about that fan base and that experience, what we would be offering to our residents. So thank you. If I think of something else, I may ask you, Counselor, but I'll wait and see Mr. Abbott's question.
So the games that you enumerated of Jackson State versus Southern University, those are not definite, or are those definitely the teams that we will have on those 5 years?
They are definitely the teams, but we're waiting for this to announce. So those
Okay.
are the teams. We've already talked to the teams. We've already talked to the athletic directors. Everything is in place. We just haven't technically pressed the button until we get formal approval from this body.
Okay, and these are games that won't count towards the championship. These are games, extra games that are being played because you added 2 additional schools and there's...
Yes and no. So what we have is we have 12 teams in our conference, and we have an 8-game conference schedule. Those are the games that will count in order for you to make it to the SWAC championship. So in every 2 years, there's a team that will roll off of your schedule from a conference game. So each team will not play somebody for a series of 2 years for a total of 10 years. So for example, let's just use Alabama State as an example. They will not play everybody in the West twice in a 2-year period, and it'll continue to roll. So I know I'm probably kind of confusing you in this explanation, so let me make it even more simple. So each team will not play another team for 2 years. Then that team will roll on, and they will stay on the schedule for 8 years. And that cycle will continue throughout a 10-year period to where it starts over. So what we're talking about is taking those teams that are not playing in that 2-year period and bringing them to Birmingham. But they are some of our most dynamic matchups. So Jackson State University and Southern University are 2 of our most high-profile alumni bases. They are probably the 2 most high-profile institutions as far as travel is concerned. And we know without a doubt that those teams are highly sought after, right? This is not the only proposal that came to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We are just committed to the city of Birmingham. The other piece of that is we're trying to do away with third-party promoters. We're trying to do away with these classic games where promoters come and pay us to come and they keep the money. What we're trying to do is put the money back into the communities that we have relationships with, as well as the institutions that we have relationships with. And the third thing about Birmingham is we have a very vibrant commitment to not only the economic growth of Birmingham, but from an academic standpoint, being able to reach out to Birmingham City Schools. We did this with our basketball tournament where we have the career fair, college fair. The first year, COVID got us last year and the year before, but the first year we awarded over $500,000 worth of scholarships. So we're committed to bring in all of our assets and resources. So this is not just an economic driver for us. This is more about the larger commitment that we came to you 3 years ago and said that we wanted to commit to. So bringing you quality matchups are extremely important. So when we start talking about Alabama State in 24-25 and 25-26, again, they fall off of Southern's schedule. So we know Southern is very excited and committed to coming. Then once Jackson and Southern plays their conference game and Alabama State falls off, or Alabama A&M falls off, even quite frankly, when FAMU falls off or Grambling falls off, we want this to be the city to where that game is going to be played. Again, I apologize for the long answer.
So the teams that roll off and are not going to play are going to play in Birmingham if we approve this.
That is correct.
So they are going to play.
That is correct. Hopefully. Hopefully.
Okay.
And again, I really want to reiterate, we have seen unprecedented growth within the Southwestern Athletic Conference, not just from a football perspective, but overall. And I know this meeting is being recorded, so I'm going to be careful in what I'm saying. We've had other media partners to reach out to us from a national standpoint. One media outlet in Florida said that the SWAC is the Black College SEC from entertainment value and from a competitive. I tend to shy away from that because I never want to be on the record comparing myself to the Southeastern Conference. But when you look at the statistics, when you look at the fan base, when you look at the economic impact, when you look at the drivers, this now is the time for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And we have major third-party media partners that are trying to break in. We have a tremendous amount of third-party individuals trying to receive our games. And what we've talked about as a conference is we want to control our narrative and we want to control our brand. No longer do we want to just sell ourselves to this third party and let them take everything. We think we can change the way business is done within our Black College realm and help not only the institutions but our local community from an economic impact and from an educational impact if we can control this narrative. And talking to Mayor Woodfin, this is how this whole idea began to evolve.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that explanation. And I have one more question over here.
Sure.
And that is the economic impact. I know you probably already said it, but what is the projected economic impact of these games being here?
And conservatively looking at 16 million in economic impact, 2.6 million in room nights, which would allow the city to collect approximately around 459,000.
Okay, and this is not the MSA, it's just the city of Birmingham?
That would be correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because in the past, we've only been able to get MSA estimates. Somehow, nobody could ever break it down to just the city of Birmingham. So, good. That's great. Well, I had another question that slipped my mind, so.
Counselor Clark,
Thank you.
we can't hear you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just welcome Commissioner McClellan to Birmingham and the SWAC back to Birmingham. So you've been back for 3 years. Where did you all go?
That's a great question. Technically, we never left.
Okay.
We were always here, but we did not have a really good relationship with the city. When I came in 2019, we made it, our business to have a strong relationship with the city. We entered into an agreement. We talked about baseball. We talked about basketball. We also have track here, and we've actually instituted 2 golf tournaments here that our member institutions have come in. And when we made our presentation to the council about 2.5 years ago, we showed that just the SWAC office being here, economic impact was approximately $8.9 million.
Okay.
It's actually grown. We bought the old Pittman Financial building.
I see it. I pass it all the time.
So
that's great.
And the whole
Great
point of it
visibility.
is we are investing in the city of Birmingham. So technically, the conference office never left.
Okay.
But our commitment now is as strong as it has ever been, and we continue to enforce through everything that we do our commitment to the city of Birmingham. We're not going anywhere. I came from Houston. My wife told me that we're not moving anymore. So as long as I'm here, SWAC will be here, and I'm not planning on going anywhere for quite some time.
Okay. Well, sir, I'm pretty new on the city council, so I just wanted to know, do we have another financial agreement with the SWAC outside of what's being proposed today?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, we do. So when we came, again, it was about 3 years ago, there was a financial commitment from the city to keep the conference office here, to be able to have a minimum of 3 championships, which we committed for our basketball championship, our indoor track championship, and then we said that we would bring a 3rd championship to the city, or a 3rd event to the city. So we actually brought baseball this year, and we've committed to, and we've been doing this for a couple of years, 2 golf tournaments. So we actually have 5 events where the contract calls for 3. And again, the permanent residents of the Southwestern Athletic Conference being here. And I know you didn't ask this question.
Well, may I ask how much
Yes,
that,
I was getting ready to say. I know
the
you didn't ask
term
this question.
and the amount of that
Yeah,
commitment?
but it started at 150,000 for the first year, was 150 for the second year.
It's still it's 150 for 3 years.
150 for 3
every 3 years.
Already, Councilor Clark, it's already in the budget. We already have that allocated for it. No, I just want you to know. It's already, and whenever you get your budget overview, we'll they'll explain everything to you. So.
Yeah, okay. So then this is proposing an additional financial commitment to have these big blockbuster games. Do you know what time of year these games will occur?
Yes, ma'am. Approximately the third week in September
Okay.
are the dates. It could fluctuate depending on the calendar, but these are September.
Nice.
Football
It's not cold yet. That's great. More like exhibition style games. Does this preclude us from hosting the SWAC championship game?
No, ma'am, it does not preclude you.
But that's a whole nother bid, isn't
That's,
it?
yes. So, again, I apologize to everybody for taking up all of the time. These are some very good questions. We talked about the SWAC championship game here in Birmingham, and actually this is how this entire relationship began to grow. My predecessor had a deal to where the SWAC championship game was going to be here, and it was the last championship game. The conference office said we were not having a championship game anymore, and it was going to be at Legion Field. But ironically, it was at the same time that UAB had its championship game. So I politely backed out, and we moved the game on campus. The game on campus was hugely successful to where, and again, these numbers, Jackson State hasn't given me these numbers. I know this meeting is on the record. But I always say this, I can multiply, divide, add, and subtract. We know that Jackson State brought in over $1.5 million just in ticket sales and parking and concession. So that game now has become a little larger than ultimately what it originally was. We know from Jackson, Mississippi, they gave us the economic impact numbers. That one game alone was over an $8 million economic impact. So hosting of the championship game now is on the individual campus, so you have to qualify. And we've had other entities to come. Quite frankly, you're talking $2 to $3 million just for that one game. And I think that is the beauty of this deal, because these crowds that we're talking about, you're going to get 40, 50, 60,000 people. And I give that, you say, well, what's 40, what's 60? I'm saying 40 on the smaller range, 60 on the larger range. You're really getting something that's close to a SWAC championship game in the month of September for a fraction of the economic cost. And again, these are not dollars that are coming to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We're going to split this money in half, and we're going to give it to the institutions to help pay for band travel, team travel, administrative travel. So this is not something that we're taking and spending. This is an investment into those institutions.
Well, I appreciate that strategy, because it's really hard for the HBCUs to, be sustainable and competitive with other institutions. So I think it's a smart strategy to reduce the third parties and, kind of reinvest
Thank you.
In the schools. So thank you for that.
I keep looking back. I know these meetings are recorded. I've said a lot that I have tried to keep out of the media. I hope I don't be on that 6 o'clock news.
Madam President, did you have another question?
My follow-up question, and you did mention you have the education component where you'll be involving Birmingham City Schools, will each of these games then have the sort of the school fair or type? Can you just tell me a little bit about what that may involve?
Honestly, Madam Chairman, we have not gotten that far yet in the planning, but absolutely. One of the commitments that we had with the basketball tournament not only was the college fair, but providing tickets to Birmingham City Schools so they could come and see. So the college fair was located inside of the basketball championship. So not only did you come to the college fair, you got a chance to see the athletes at a high level, and hopefully it gets you motivated in order to come. We are planning on doing similar with these football games, but honestly, we have not gotten that far in the planning.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That's it, Madam
Councilor
Chair.
Abbott, are you good?
I just had one more question, and that's why, and this is for Mr. Mitchell. Why is it $200,000 the first year and $300,000 forever after?
I can probably answer that one.
Okay.
I negotiated down because the first year we wanted to make sure that we, one, could deliver, and two, the matchup that we had, which was Jackson State, the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, is not as big as the Jackson State Southern game. So we wanted to have some economies of scale and not necessarily come and just ask for a blanket amount. We wanted to be fair in our ability to be able to deliver to you what we said we were going to deliver.
What he said.
Yeah. Fair sounds good to me.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
like that. So that was my only other question.
Counselor Clark.
Just one more thought. So right now, JSU has a lot of star power.
Yes.
If that changes somewhere along this 5 years, do we get to, do we have some outs? Will the contract come back, or the contract's in the agenda?
The contract come back after 3 years for the renewal.
Okay.
But we can put in the contract. So these matchups are the matchups that I have offline talked to the institutions. I kind of alluded to it earlier. There's a lot of games that we can bring. What we think is good in 2022 might not necessarily be good in
That's what I'm thinking.
2026.
Yeah.
So our commitment is that, exactly.
Okay.
But I can tell you that Jackson State, they've led FCS attendance almost every year since they've been in existence. Jackson State is that name brand. But if you had an opportunity to get a Florida A&M here, I'm pretty sure you would want to jump on that because they have a very robust, matter of fact, their national alumni president is here, Birmingham. So yes, and we are more than willing to write into the contract, given the flexibility for us to mutually agree upon the opponent. Because again, going back to your question, he did not want to put the cart before the horse. These are conversations that we've had with the schools, and they are ready to go, but we did not want to execute until we had formal approval. And if formal approval means that you want some flexibility in the future, I would argue that I probably would want that same flexibility on our side.
Okay.
What he said again.
Well, I guess my question is, how did you get Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman to join y'all?
I would like to take some credit. I'm not quite sure if I would be justified in doing so. But I can tell you the Southwestern Athletic Conference brand has been strong. And it has come even more strong based upon not just Coach Prime. A lot of people try to give it to Coach Prime. This happened before Coach Prime. But when you look at our entertainment value and you look at our Rapid fan base, they wanted a part of it. They're on the East Coast. They only had 1 or 2 games as to where they had the type of environment they got within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I talked to the athletic director at Florida A&M. They played Alabama State for homecoming. They made more money playing Alabama State for homecoming than they had at any other event. It was a 7-figure deal. And they reduced travel by 35%. So in the state of Florida, they cannot get state funding, nor can they finish in a deficit. And they've been finishing in a deficit. Just on travel alone, they were able to balance the budget. So there were a lot of politics involved, but once the economics got to it, and then we were able to give them some incentive to come, and they saw that they're going to be able to make a lot of money and get this. If you look at what SWAC has done, again, Coach Prime signed the #2 recruit in the nation. He flipped him from Florida State. That received all of the attention.
It's okay, Travis.
But Alabama A&M just signed a 4-star athlete, right? We've had at least 7 4- and 5-star athletes, so they're starting to choose us. They're starting to choose us because they can get on national television. They can play in front of 40, 50, 60,000 fans. And they can go to the Celebration Bowl, play on ABC, and play in a national championship game. And then that's just football. You add the other 17 sports, and you add again the economic impact, it was just a no-brainer. And once FAMU signed on, the chairman of the board from Bethune-Cookman is actually on the FAMU's board. So when he heard all of the presentation, he called and said, what about Bethune-Cookman? I think our challenge right now is making sure that we can kind of gel the 12 together.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to get calls from other schools wanting to join. We are Black College athletics right now. When you look at the SIAC and the CIAA, I'm looking back, no disrespect to anybody from those schools, we are the only Division I conference that has every Division I HBCU from Texas to Florida. So the MEAC now only has 6 football playing schools, so the center of the universe on Black College athletics is focused on SWAC. And the center of the universe on Black College will be focused on the city of Birmingham the 3rd week in September every year with this football game, and it will be a national event.
Wow. Well, I will have to give you kudos. You told us 3 years ago you were going to elevate SWAC, and that's exactly what you did. It's a little bit different for me just because I played sports in the MEAC, and you're so right because Hampton left the MEAC right after I graduated, and they do struggle. They do struggle a lot. So I really want to say thank you for helping out HBCUs because the budget for sports is nothing. Because I think President Harvey at Hampton, he ended up cutting the golf team, for example, and we raised money for it. And so we have a whole bunch of kids struggling to find out if they can transfer to Howard, other schools. So I really want to say thank you for doing this. Cornell Wesley, kudos to you. You've only been here less than a year, and you've brought so much to the city. So I'm really proud of y'all for this.
Thank you.
Just one more question. How much, I guess, what's the percentage of the revenue that will actually go to the schools? Like, how much money do you think will go to the schools each year? Did you say some of the money? So all of it?
100% of the profit.
100% of the profits? Okay.
So from a Southwestern Athletic Conference, we are a not-for-profit. So in our constitution and bylaw, it's my responsibility to generate enough resources in order to run conference office operations. Once I get to that point, all of the money goes back to the school. So the thought process of this again was, and I'll be careful on calling any institution name, why go play institution X in Alabama and get beat 85-0 and bring home a check when you can create your own value and have that entertainment value and it be worth something. So we're trying to change the way that this whole game is being worked and the whole game being set up. And not to get too much into the parallels of what's going on with the NCAA, but the NCAA has just redesigned its constitution. You're going to be talking about the Autonomy 5, which is the Power 5. You know, what are they going to do with their balls, what the Group of 5 are going to do with their balls, Conference USA, Sun Belt. And what we're saying is we're unique. We don't need the Power 5. We don't need the Group of 5. We have our own product. Let's build our own product, and that's what this initiative is doing. If it wasn't going to be in Birmingham, it was going to be somewhere else. This is something that we're going to do, but it changes the way that we self-value ourselves, and it puts the responsibility and the economic driver back on us. So from a conference standpoint, we've already generated enough money to make our budget. So now if we have 2 schools committed to come play this game, then it's an economic driver for those 2 schools. We're not going to take any of it. All of the money will go back to help generate revenue for the membership in the individual schools. I don't get a chance to fly and go on vacation with the money. It all goes back to the school.
Okay, well, I think we're good, and we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The item passes. Thank you so much. It was good seeing you.
Thank you.
I apologize for taking up everyone's
Okay.
time.
No, you're fine. That was very informative.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, item number 8, an amended and restated redevelopment agreement between the City of Birmingham and Housing Reinvestment Corporation of America in substantially the form attached under the redevelopment agreement, which the city will transfer up to 27 vacant lots. These lots comprise of a portion of the former Camellia Terrace Apartments property located in 1,000 and 1,100 blocks of 51st Street, which are a part of the Bellevue Heights neighborhood. The transfer is to Housing Reinvestment Corporation of America for a price of $1 per lot. The procedure will allow Housing Reinvestment Corporation of America to develop a single-family housing unit on each lot transferred. The city hereby agrees to provide an amount not to exceed $540,000 the city assistance in support of this project, which the redevelopers agreement is to complete and sell homes both at market rate and affordable homes as authorized by Alabama Code 11-96A and as consistent with the development of affordable housing under the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA.
Move the item.
Second.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Corey Stallworth. I serve as Deputy Director of Housing Programs and Community Development. And as stated, the item before you is a request to amend and restate the redevelopment agreement between the city and the Housing Reinvestment Corporation of America, which is the nonprofit arm of NCRC. And the main change in this agreement is to include the allocation of $540,000 of ARP funding to the Oak Hill Single Family Development in Bellevue Heights. This addition of $540,000 in ARP funding will be utilized by the developer to assist in subsidizing the $7 million project to make feasible, affordable rate units for sale. Due to the increased costs in construction, the all-in cost to build these homes without subsidy is well over $200,000 each. The subsidy will allow the developer to sell the properties at a reduced purchase price, somewhere between $165,000 to $180,000 to low to moderate income individuals. That's just a brief.
What was the price? 160,000 to?
165 to 180.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's just a brief overview, and I am willing to entertain any questions.
Okay, Councilor Abbott?
Yes, I wanted to ask, the $540,000 then will be used to actually construct the homes, correct?
Yes.
So, and I read that it's the longest contract, but it seems that it was
Yes.
like each house was going to be between 1,700 and 2,100 square feet, something like that. I think there was a range.
Like 1,200
No,
to
so
1,700?
it should be smaller than that. It's between 1,300 and 1,700.
That's close.
Gosh, I wonder what contract I was reading. Anyway, so that doesn't matter. So the money will be used to build the houses. Then, who will handle the subsidized? I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out how the deal works for the buyer.
Okay.
And all the houses will be, I mean, some will be market rate and some will be subsidized, but they'll all be equal in construction, quality, and like the subsidized houses they won't have Formica countertops when everybody else got granted. I mean, they're not going to be a cheaper version.
That's correct. So all of the houses will be the same type of construction. We're talking about granite countertops, shaker-style cabinets. They will all be the same, and so they will also be scattered. So there is a carve-out of 40% that will be affordable, which comes to about 11 units, and they will be scattered and blended through the community. So it won't be on one side, there'll be all of the affordable houses. It will be a blended mixed income community as designed.
And I assume nobody will know unless they tell. Everybody will just be equal to all appearances. The houses will be equal in quality.
Yes, and so we have about 4 different floor plans, and some of those include 2-story homes, and they will all be they'll be comparable to market rate housing. And so there'll be a mixture of brick, hardy board siding, and so these will be quality built homes that will be able to blend into the rest of the fabric of the Bellevue Heights community.
Okay, and
No, there you go.
so who is going to sell the houses and how does the subsidy work?
So the developer developer is responsible for the sale of the homes, and they have utilized JRC Realty, and they have Mr. Alvin Johnson, who is their realtor, to sell these homes. And so the homes will be sold to, the 40% will be sold to families within the low to moderate income range. And so those homes will have the reduced purchase price. Those families will also be set up with other banking partners that have banking products to assist them with down payment assistance program, those lower credit score requirements. And so Mr. Alvin Johnson will handle the coordination of all of that through the sale of that.
And who at the city will oversee that?
So the Community Development Department will ensure that the houses are being sold to low to moderate income families, just the same way we do with our home programs. So it will still follow the same regulations and guidelines of that.
Okay.
But we will still want to see the income information to make sure that the families are qualified.
So what is the range of low to median income? What would that constitute? Is it like 25,000 to?
Yeah, so
50,000?
I'm glad you asked that. I looked that up before I came. So if we're talking about 80% of the area median income or below, we're talking about for extremely low, that's 26,000 per year. 50% of the area median income is 38,000, and right at the top of 80% is 61,000.
So what is did you say is the reduced purchase price for those people from low to moderate income?
Yeah, so those homes will be between the 165 and 180.
And so for the other 60% of those houses, what would be the price they would be sold
So
at?
those will be 180, and some will actually be in the upper 100,000s.
Sorry, Councilor Abbott, did you have any more questions?
I do, but I'm probably getting into the weeds, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I was just trying to understand, like, okay, let's say that I'm going to buy a subsidized house. Okay, is the price still $180,000 and then I get a subsidy added in that brings the price for me down, or is the price discounted to start with and I only pay, $165 instead of paying what a market rate person would pay?
Right, so the $540,000 is what buys down that price to make it, let's say, 165 or 170. So it's already bought down at the point when the buyer begins to process.
Okay. I just wanted to understand that. Thank you.
So it wouldn't be reduced lower than 165.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Madam President?
Thank you. I just wanted to get clarification. The $540,000 that's coming from money from the American Rescue Plan. And I just wanted to be sure I'm clear. I was thinking the $540 was to help with building costs. It's not, but you're saying it's to buy down and help the subsidy. It has nothing to do with the cost, the building cost?
Yeah, so the cost of construction is well over $200,000. And so without this, is somewhere near $200,000. So without this subsidy, then those homes would have to be sold
at a higher
that
price.
amount.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, yes, and how did you come up with this figure of 540? It again is dealing with the cost associated. I was just trying to see how you extrapolate
Yeah, with the
it.
costs associated with those 11 homes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Councilor Clark?
Yeah, I had something similar to what Councilor Alexander and Councilor Abbott were asking about kind of the mechanics of it. And I know sometimes these subsidies can be put into a second mortgage that's forgivable over time or something like that. But I understand because of what I do every day, how expensive it is to build something right now. So whatever costs they imagined that they were going to be able to deliver them for is just way more than that now, right? And so, and then the market is always who's showing up to buy the house, really. I mean, we can say market rate, but it's like who wants to be here and what is their income status and how much mortgage can they,
That's right.
afford? What are they pre-qualified for? So it's probably, I'm just guessing, it's a combination of what it's costing to build and what the people who want the houses can qualify for that's sort of making you have to size this gap. But it's just going to go to the developer and they're going to have certain buyers qualify to get them at a lower price.
So that lower price, like I said earlier, is carved out for 40% of the units, those 11 units.
But the buyers have to qualify
They
to
have to
get it
qualify.
for the lower price.
They have to be
Based
at
on their
80%
income.
of the
Okay.
area median income or below.
And they have to,
And the houses, those 11 houses have to remain affordable units. They'll have the deed restrictions.
okay. So they will have to provide documentation to your office.
Yep, they'll provide it to the realtor, and the realtor will work with our office so that we could monitor and make sure that this indeed is someone who qualifies. And so we'll maintain a file in our office as well.
Okay. Well, I'm very excited about this. I'm glad about where it landed. I do know that they are looking for other sites, and so that's not the subject of this, but
Yes, yes.
I don't want everybody to be jealous.
No.
They're looking for other sites.
How about Larkway Gardens?
Too late for that.
So yeah, we
Jealousy
definitely
coming.
plan, we are working together now to identify other sites across the city, even some of those city-owned lots that may be ideal, whether they're scattered or contiguous. And so we'll be sharing that larger plan at a later date.
And I do want to make one more point while it's relevant. These deals, these affordable housing deals, or even any kind of housing, they're not going to work. They were hard to do before COVID. They are really out of reach now. So we're going to have to subsidize.
Yeah, and this
housing.
is typical what we're seeing with a lot of our other projects as well, just pandemic and the rise in construction.
Okay, Councilor Clark, do you have any? Okay, so at the December committee of the whole meeting, it was discussed that this project would get well more than 540,000. What are we gonna do with the remaining money? I guess, what are the plans for that?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Well, when we, in the plan for all of the money, well, maybe that's Kelvin Datcher, we have more than 540,000, isn't that right? 1 million. It was 1 million. What are we doing with the other 460,000?
Council, we hope to replicate this all across the city.
Okay, so this is just like, okay, gotcha, makes sense. When you said Bellevue Heights was a pilot, and then, okay, that makes sense.
Project number 1, and then there's 2.
No, I thought, because it made it seem like at the meeting that this was all Bellevue Heights, and I think some councilors were up in arms about it, but I'm glad to know that.
Yes, ma'am. And we hope to, continue this, like I said, all across the city. And so we're excited. You can go visit Councilor Clark. The houses are actually coming out the ground already. So you guys
Oh,
see
you gotta
the
send some
city at work.
pictures in.
Yeah, 4 are really close, right?
Wow.
We'll have 2 that should be completed by the end of this week, then 3 more in the following 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely like to have you all out to.
Yeah, please do.
I just wanted to ask one question because Councilor Clark made me think of something, and I think I know the answer before I even ask it. But you know, in the past, how you've had UDAG grants and things like that, that if you were given money to help subsidize the mortgage or down payment, then often that seller, if you sold that home, you had to repay. But this money is going to the developer, correct? So there's no risk there or guarantee, or what I want to say, contract then with the homeowner for those funds, correct?
Correct, but there will be the restriction that it has to be maintained affordable unit. That'll be in the agreement with the home buyer
Okay.
and the developer.
Because that's in the contract already anyways, right? Yeah. that's in the contract already, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you, appreciate it. Thank
Counselor Abbott, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, that just made one come to mind. It's really easy. Okay, so if I buy a subsidized house and I pay $165,000 for it and I stay in it 2 years and I get a job in Houston, okay, when I sell it, it has to remain a low to moderate income home, but do they have to sell it for the same amount they bought it for? Or yeah, it's me. I've only lived there 2 years, and I received this subsidized price. So when I sell it, do I have to sell it for the same amount that I bought it for?
So that's a good question. We'll have to evaluate at that time because the market changes. So we have to evaluate what would be considered affordable at that time.
Could it go down?
Not likely, but it could, depending on the market.
Yeah, because, I mean, things happen in people's lives. Certainly, if you got a great job offer in some other city, you would want to leave even though you hadn't stayed long enough to, I don't know. I'm remembering the other ways of doing it, but I was just curious. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, Councilor Carr. It's your district.
Everybody's questions are triggering. But you know, I was going to ask, before Councilor Abbott's question, you know, was it permanently, you know, is the deed restriction permanent, or does it expire after so many years, or you release it? But I like the idea of permanent affordability. You know, so it's it's there forever, as long as that piece of land is there.
Well, but how does anybody build wealth if they can't?
Good afternoon. Chris Hatcher, I serve as Interim Director of Community Development. This deed restricted for 15 years.
15 years, okay. Dang.
Yes, unfortunately. You're right. Every question makes you think of another question.
Let's go to Madam President.
So one of the reasons people buy a home is to build wealth so that they have something to hopefully pass on or at least live off of when they get old. So if you buy one of these subsidized houses and you do have to leave, then you never build any wealth. You just get what wealth you put in it back out. Is that how it works? I mean, I'm trying to figure out how people build wealth if the unit has to remain subsidized. I'm kind of lost there. Is it just to have a place to live, or is it to build wealth?
Yeah, so there's a part of it, and that's why I stated that the market changes over time. So, the market trend has increased over the years. Even though it has to remain affordable, that price could be more than what the new affordable price when they get ready to sell could be more than.
So if I'm sorry.
Councilor Abbott, did you have any more questions?
That's fine. I mean, I'm just sitting here trying to imagine how this works. And
Gotcha. Okay. Hold on. Let's see. Madam President, are you good? Okay, Councilor Clark.
Okay. I'm just assuming that if the family was 80% of, it was affordable for them at 80%, the deed restriction will say it needs to stay affordable to a family at 80%. So what's affordable for a family at 80%? Today it's, what you can qualify making $56,000, but in 5 years, that could be a higher number.
Yeah.
That would be the ceiling. But then the appraiser has to also have an opinion of value for the banks. And then they have whatever equity. So, I mean, that's what I'm kind of.
The dangers of home ownership.
Yes.
You don't ever know.
So they would have a ceiling, a value ceiling that's created by the affordability. That's going to be a limiting factor in the value in a future year. But you have also the appraisal and other stuff. So the next family might get a house worth $250,000 for $200,000.
Correct.
I mean,
it depends on
be different.
the market at that time.
Yeah. That helps me a little bit. But that's really.
I think everybody's good. We had
Oh, wait,
no, you're fine.
I'm just kidding.
There was a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, the item passes. Well, thank you. If the committee would just give me a little leeway right here, we don't have anything for new business, but Counselor Moore and then Counselor Tate has sent us examples of online surveys about the budget priorities for the city. And so I just wanted just 5 minutes for us to kind of talk about what are our thoughts as a committee for it. Should we move forward with it? Like, what are your thoughts about it? Especially like Counselor Abbott, who's been here a long time, and Madam President being our president.
Well, this is what I think. Most council members, it takes them 2 or 3 or 4 years to really understand municipal budgeting. I don't want to set expectations of the public that their suggestions are going to make us change the budget. Because number one, the council doesn't control the budget. The mayor is the one that controls the budget. And so we hold these public meetings, or we hold these, we have these surveys, and people give us all their brilliant ideas, and we can't do a darn thing with them. So what concerns me is giving people the expectation that we are going to do a survey and do what they want us to do, which is probably going to be pave the streets and fix the sewers and fix the lights and fix all the stuff that's broken. That's what residents want. Now, there may be some other people that chime in on our surveys, because I don't know how we would control who responds to a survey, but I just think that we have to be very careful not to set expectations that if you send us these suggestions, we're going to be able to implement them. We want to know what you think, but, you know, the budget team in the mayor's office is the one that needs to be doing this, not us. Even though it makes us sound very even-handed and generous and wonderful and we care what you think, the council has no control. So that's my concern, is that, you know, you have to be very careful in the crafting of the questions you ask people, unless you just say, what do you think we ought to do with the city's budget this year? Well, do the citizens know that 70-some-odd% of the money is already gone and off the table because it's paying for salaries and benefits? Probably 99% of the people in the city don't think about it. They just think we have $450 million and look what we could do with that. You know, we could build everything. Well, it's not true, and if you don't have an educational component to your survey, you know, I just think we'd be stepping in it big time if we're not exceedingly careful. And that's why I said in my response email that if we don't include the mayor's team in this initiative, in the discussion of whether to do it or not, I don't want us to look foolish. And I don't want us to look like we're just, you know, trying to placate people. No, we didn't implement the budget you wanted last year, so we'll ask your opinion again this year. I mean, You see what I mean? I just think that it took me a long time to understand the difference between municipal budgeting and how everybody else in the world budgets. I mean, we're just different. And it takes a while to figure that out. And the thing about the 70% of the budget being off the table, and then you've got to buy all those trucks, and you've got to buy all those cars, and you've got to fix all the roofs, and you've got to pave all the streets and fix all the sidewalks. You know,
I guess it's more so like, so I went through the surveys and it was very very detailed. Like, it asks you your age, if you from New York, if you actually lived in New York. It asks your demographics, so it's broken down, so you'll be able to see if someone actually lives in Birmingham and is asked these questions or not. It did ask, it wasn't just like, oh, what do you think of the budget? It was more concrete and detailed, like I said before, than that, because I think it does shoot us in the foot about that. Honestly, we could do like a mini educational piece for the residents, because they kind of need to know what the money is going towards. And then, so yeah, I do think that's a possible partnership with the mayor's office. I just don't want to put it all on them and be like, hey, here's the survey, we want to do it, and then just give it to them. But Madam President, what do you think?
Well, I do appreciate, as a council, us looking for ways to involve the residents in the conversation and the piece around, our budget. But I think we do have to be realistic in that. I do also, though, understand the rationale of not so much a sense of false hope, but what would we do with this information? What is going to be how valuable is this information to that process? Yeah. And then so we gather this information as the council, then do we pass that off to the mayor's team who are actually creating the budget? And so I guess I look at it twofold. It does allow, and I don't know what their process is, to be fair to them, as how much of that input is from the public in making those decisions, because as Mrs. Abbott said, there are some things that are just raw and concrete when it comes to salaries and budgets, and it is a total different animal. Here I was thinking, because I've done budgets in my work setting, it's totally different. You're absolutely right. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I've done a budget before, and I've created a budget. But the municipal budget is, and it does take that understanding, and I'm just 3 years out and still in that learning process. So I guess what we need to just agree upon as a group, as counselors, as again, what do we want the outcome of that information to be? And I just don't want to go through a process of giving false hope. Yeah. But I do want to know what people think is important. Yeah. But then there is that educational component, that understanding of what that budget is and isn't. So
I'll talk about this because I talked with Kevin, who's on my staff now, about it. I do want to do some type of public hearing before we release the budget, just so the public can have an opportunity to talk to us, because we have
to do that. That's required by law. We have to have.
No, I'm talking about before he released it. Like, usually it's like at the end of May, but like do it in April. If that's not possible, that's fine. But because we only get 6 weeks to look at it, and I don't want the public to feel as if we just gave them 2 public hearings just because we're required by law to do it.
Yeah. Well, if you sit through those public hearings a couple of times, well, it'll be an interesting experience for you. I'll just leave it at that.
I remember what we still did during the pandemic.
We used to have the public hearings, and we would have scores of people coming and asking us for money. Well, back then, the council could carve up the budget. I remember one year we took a percentage out of every department, and the 4 departments, we didn't know what we were doing, but we did it because we could. And so that was so we could fund a bunch of these entities that came with their hands out saying we need money for, all the not-for-profits in Birmingham would show up. But then when we quit funding not-for-profits, the number of people who came dwindled down to a handful, because they knew that we weren't going to be handing out money. So, we had the budget, we had all of those little dog and pony shows that we took around the city, and we would have them in different locations in the hinterlands and all over. And, 20 people would come to hear our spiel about, and it was really mostly an educational spiel, and Chaz was involved in a bunch of them, where we were trying to educate the public on how I'm just got to quit using my hands to talk, but You know, it was, I think
can't
the
hear you.
educational piece is the most important piece. I don't necessarily think that asking people's opinion on what we do with the budget, because we have no real power over the budget, but the educational piece is the important part.
Well, we could do that too. Well, I don't know. Well, in COVID, I don't know what that will look like, but that's something we can do as
Well,
well.
we could do it online. I mean, if people would come look at what we put online. I mean, Chaz probably still has some of those presentations on his laptop.
Ms. Kia, I know you have something.
Somebody.
Yes, I didn't see the information relative to that, but hearing the conversation about it is, I think that anytime you do a survey in the council itself, we may not have, or you may not have, an influence as to the budget, but you do legislate, advocate, and you review this budget. So if you got the citizenry together to collectively look at this data, then it would tell you what advocacy you could have, what policy you might want to put around that particular set of information, a data set that you're getting. So I think it would be at least very fruitful to look at the survey to see what the objective is. And as Councilor Abbott has said, for how many budgets this is for us, 20? That for 20 budgets, we have done the North, East, South, and West informational. So I don't think any of that changed. Even when the council had a vote in the budget, it was still, at least from what I've seen, it is popular to hear from your public, to hear what they want. And sometimes they may give us some insight as to how to better advocate for them, and then what policy might be out there that the council can surround itself around to make sure that whatever they're asking for might avail itself. And looking at what you're saying about the demographics, the age, I mean, I don't think we could, or the council could, you can't get too much information about who is your constituent. I think that would be good. So I would be very interested in looking at the components and what data set would be yield out of that, other than just the information of I would like more roads. Everybody, we know that. And then we could always definitely do the educational piece as to what it is that we're limited by financially, and from the council's standpoint of what it is that you can actually do. But advocacy is at the top of what you do.
Yeah, so I'm looking, I sent you those links, Gerald.
Okay.
I'm looking at like one right now, and it talks about citywide services, your top 3 needs or priorities: infrastructure, library and parks and recreation, public safety, climate equity fund. Well, I think that's just for this county. And then asks how familiar are you with the city, with how the city develops the annual budget? That'll kind of go with what Councilor Abbott talked about. Are you interested in participating in a budget town hall? And it's like really, that one's really short. It's the one in New York that was a lot longer. But that's just something maybe we could just think about. So, well, sorry, Councilor Clark. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I do agree that, you know, getting people's, getting a sense of constituents' priorities doesn't hurt. But I do think we have to qualify that, you know, this is informational for us so that we have a sense of your priorities and where we can advocate for you. But I did think the public safety one was well crafted in that it was only dealing with public safety. That was the New York City one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So if you were trying to figure out how to, you know, maybe shift some spending away from traditional law enforcement to other strategies, I think it's good. So it's all in how you craft it and how, because surveys can really lead people to not opine very broadly, but to, you know, give their opinions more narrowly according to like what we might have more discretion over, and not the things we can't. But I feel like, we need a survey. I think the mayor needs to survey us because we need to
Well, that's what the
influence-
5 budget priorities were for, just to get that conversation going. I'm still waiting
Okay.
on 3 more counselors to give it, but that kind of helps them to get it at the end of January, but versus they usually do it in March and April, so.
ended versus,
Well, it's supposed to be open-ended, so you won't be constrained by it, because you may not be in the traditional sense of whatever is in the budget. You could be like, hey, I would like this to go towards more mental health initiatives, and if we can't put in the budget, you can see how you can use your discretionary funding for it, for example. So it was just wherever you guys would, whatever you want to do it with, basically.
okay. So that was kind of the survey to give the mayor some idea where we want to.
As individual, because he
Okay.
knows, like, usually it's street paving, weed abatement, like, he knows it's the basics, but like we've talked before with him, maybe there's some things we're a little bit more passionate about that he doesn't know about, because he's just one person. Chief Mitchell is just one person.
Okay, well, I'm speaking for the new folks. I mean, it's hard to just know even how to answer that question.
Well, that's why you ask your neighborhoods. You ask them, and you ask them.
You do what?
You ask the neighborhoods what would they like to see, and and also you saw that what canvassing, you saw what your district needed differently, maybe.
No, I'm saying I answered the question, but I'm just saying having the knowledge, enough knowledge of the budget to
Oh, well,
really
that's what-
intelligently answer the question.
Well,
For me. And I gave you an answer, but,
I didn't say nothing was wrong with your answer, but wait a minute, look, I didn't say nothing was wrong with your answer, but like Councilor Abbott said, it takes time to understand the budget too, and they're willing to sit down with you, but we want to get started, and you'll see this, I know you work for America, you'll see this, you'd rather start earlier than later, because they usually finish the budget, it's a while, it takes them a minute, but you don't need to give them your input when they finish the budget, because they've done all their work, and they spend months doing this. And also they have public hearings. I know it's virtual, but you can attend those as well for each department.
so we'll get notice.
Yeah, those are the same ones like what we got for community development. I don't know if you remember that. I know it's a lot, but that's like an example of it, so.
Yeah, we get invited to every single department's little dog and pony show where they ask for what they want. What we don't ever see is what they're granted, because, of course, they ask for lots of stuff, and there's not enough money to go around. So we sit in on those I need this and I need that meetings, but then we don't sit in on the meeting where the decisions are actually made. So when we see the budget, it's like, oh, well, what happened to fixing all the library buildings if you cut their budget again? And you don't get that answer because you didn't see you didn't see the sausage being made. You just got to hear the ask, but you didn't get to hear the tell. We're only going to give you a quarter of what you asked for. So, I see that as the little problem with our budget process is the council. It's kind of like a surprise at the end. Even though we've heard, if we attend every single department's hearing, we hear what they asked for, but we don't hear what they're granted.
Well, we'll just talk with Chief Mitchell about that one, even if it's something that just comes to the committee and we invite other councilors to it. Because we can, if I'm saying correctly, we can use this committee for things like that. Okay. Well, that's all I wanted. So,
So what do you think you're going to do now?
I think we just need to think about it. We could talk about it in 2 weeks at the next committee meeting, but I just wanted to have that conversation now, then it'd be March, April.
Actually, if we were going to do a survey now, it should be for next year's budget.
Okay.
Because we probably should start surveying like right after the budget is passed.
Okay.
We should do a survey for the next budget
That's
so
a good
that we
idea.
have a lot of time to, for one thing, somebody's got to go through all the results and figure them out. Yeah, we would really have to synthesize it, and I feel like even though this is early, I mean, it's January still, I don't think that we can have an impact on this year's budget because I think that it's sort of too late. But if we started right after the budget was passed on July 2nd, then we do it and we have 6 months, 7 months to ruminate over it and decide if there's any way to use the information intelligently, you know, between the mayor's side and the council side. I mean, I don't think we need to separate ourselves as if we're a different entity because we're all the same city.
Yeah, well, it's good to have that conversation now because it's probably going to take us a minute to develop that survey to see what all 9, 10 of us really want on
Because
there.
I think I think doing it too fast could get us in trouble.
Yeah, okay, all right, well, I think that's it. Is there a
But it's a
motion?
great idea.
I think it's a
I move that we adjourn.
Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, thank